Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker for today, Her Grace MALATI Devi. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Devotees, we thank you all as always for being here with us. And it is our greatest honor to have Her Grace MALATI to be with us today. I was very much alarmed that we may not have MALATI with us today because she traveled and I wasn't sure whether she was back or she will be able to do the program wherever she may be. And thankfully, she's tried to be here. So we're very much grateful. The Malati Ki Jai, Hare Krishna. Mother, you are muted.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Krishna.
Okay, good. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Sorry for that.
Yes.
Yeah, my voice is a little rough. Sorry for that also. Okay.
It's okay. We still can hear you. I think we have 2 verses to cover today.
Yes, they're very brief. Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay, so
thank you. So you may go ahead and I'll put the verses on the screen.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes. So here we are in the 3rd canto, the 14th chapter, verses 22 and 23. Both are fairly short. Tatapi kamamitam te pajatyayi karavanyalam yatamam natiro tanti muhutam prati palaya. And word by word, atapi, even though it is not possible, kamam, this sex desire, itam, as it is, te, your, pajatyoi, for the sake of children, karavani, let me do, alam, without delay, yata, as, mam, unto me, na, may not, atiro chanti, reproach, muhutam, a few seconds, prati palaya, wait for. Translation. Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not approach me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This is quite an interesting purport. The henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her. But as for getting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kashyapa's being very eager, he requested her, his wife, to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. And he explains his position as follows. Esha goratma vela goranam gora darsana taranti yasyam bhutani bhuteshanu taraniha. Synonyms. Esha, this, goratama, most horrible, vela, period, goranam, of the horrible, goradarshana, horrible looking, taranti, move, yasyam, in which, bhutani, ghost, bhutta isha, the lord of the ghost, anucharani, constant companions, ha, indeed. Translation. This particular time is most inauspicious, because at this time the horrible-looking ghost and constant companions of the Lord of the Ghost are visible. Purport. Kashyapa had already told his wife Diti to wait for a while, and now he warns her that failure to consider the particular time will result in punishment from the ghost and evil spirits who move during this time, along with their master, Lord Rudra. Om Magyantamarandasya Janana Sakalaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Bauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhaskachandesattarine. So devotees like to speculate a lot on various topics, usually topics which they know only through hearing about or hearsay even, but don't maybe have direct experience. Or if there is direct experience, it is very vague, not sure. So, you know, they were talking here in this verse, or the second verse, about the ghosts. And ghosts are disembodied beings. For whatever reason, they have failed to obtain a corporal body, a physical body. So they're in this subtle body, which is not desirable because they have no possibility of any type of enjoyment whatsoever. I mean, even in your spiritual body, there is enjoyment. Spiritual enjoyment, albeit, but there's enjoyment, and it goes through the spiritual senses. But when you have the body of a ghost, you're missing out on those key features, whether material or spiritual. And sometimes it is said that those persons who commit suicide, in other words, an untimely death, they get a ghost body. It may or may not always be the case, or it may be, you know, for a certain time only, a certain period of time only. But if you're in that body of a ghost, even a moment will seem like a terribly long time because it's not a convenient vehicle. And the soul is trapped in that vehicle that has no ability to enjoy on any level, lacking physical senses. So there are different times of the day that are governed by different modes. And a ghostly creature is pretty much in the mode of ignorance, say darkness. So I remember my first experience of consciously realizing that different parts of the day are definitely under the modes of material nature, and that includes being under the influence of ghostly inhabitants. And one of those periods of the day is, you can say, the twilight, the darker end of the twilight, neither day nor night, but going into darkness. And there's a certain atmosphere that is exhibited. And this, anybody, if it's just a little bit of sensitivity, can notice it. Like if you're driving, all of a sudden there's just like weirdness. People are short-tempered, they're driving erratically. Road rage is just around the corner. So it's like the Brahma Muhurta hour, not the Brahma Muhurta hour, the Shiva Muhurta hour. Lord Shiva and his friends are include ghostly inhabitants. Prabhupada used the word hobgoblins. Actually, I meant to look up that word. We use the word hobgoblins, and it's kind of more a British type of word. It's not one so much used over here, or maybe whoops. I don't know if they use that word in Africa, hobgoblins. See what Mr. Webster says about that. So hobgoblins, according to Mr. Webster, it's a mischievous goblin. So now we gotta, well, what's a goblin? Very interesting, these words. So goblins. Sometimes these goblins can be your cell phones. You're trying to find a little easy something, and then suddenly your phone becomes an annoying thing, and all kinds of things come up because you don't have control over your phone. You might think you do, but the actual fact is we don't. And then all kinds of stuff come.
Well, Mother, I have a dictionary on the screen.
Okay, I know. Okay, so what is the hobgoblins are? Wait a minute. Okay, mischief, imp, or sprite, a fearsome mythical creature. So basically, it's in the terms of mythology for a karmi, so to speak. But they are said to be the associates of Lord Shiva. So then I say, okay, hobgoblin comes from hob. The earliest known use of the word is in 1530, although it was likely in use for some time prior to that. So it's not so much the term, but what the term relates to. And it is relating to some kind of, you could say, here it gives an example, small, hairy little men found in human dwellings, they do odd jobs. Anyway, mythological, not something we understand in the corporal world, but in Shiva's world, he's not in the spiritual world, he's in another dimension where these type of creatures, so hobgoblins, like mythological in other words, they are not creatures as we would know a person. There are some personalities, but they're creatures. And then you've got the ghost. And the ghost.
Mother, sorry, your video is turned off.
Pardon?
Your video is turned off.
Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Okay, good.
So sorry about that.
Yes, okay.
So then, you've got the ghost. The ghosts have personalities, but they're persons without, as I mentioned, a corporal body. And so anybody who's associating in a prolonged way with a ghost is going to be affected. I don't want to say negatively. It's like, but they're not going to have a positive spiritual effect. Let's put it that way. So for us, positivity means enhanced spirituality, ongoing spirituality that is being, practiced and acknowledged. So the ghosts are disruptive because they have no connection. In the spiritual, you do have a body, but it won't be a body that you can necessarily see, feel, or touch when you're in your material body, but it's not a ghost body. It's a spiritual body. So the ghost doesn't have a physical body either, but it's not spiritual. So this is one of the areas of science where the scientists they're trying to find out information, but they don't know where to look for the right information. So they actually have people that go out to places that are so-called haunted and try to see if they can detect the presence of these non-physical bodied beings. In England, because of the length of time, of history, which far succeeds that in America, they have people called ghostbusters. And ghostbusters are simply people that disrupt the presence of a ghost, which is disturbing people. Like when we lived at John Lennon's estate, there was ghosts there. We all knew it, and Prabhupada acknowledged it. And Lennon's gardener was particularly disturbed. And not only him, but his wife was really disturbed, and she couldn't sleep. So Lennon was going to pay quite a good sum of money to have a professional ghostbuster come and get rid of the ghost. And Prabhupada very casually said, no, we can do that. We can do that. No need to pay. And he just said it almost casually, he says, no, you just get, kartals, mridanga, incense, and a conch, and then hold Harinam. And we did that, lots of incense, lots of blowing of the conch, but lots of kirtan. And then at a certain point, Prabhupada said, all right, they're gone, they're gone. And the fact was the next day, the wife of the gardener said, I could sleep last night. It was so nice. I could sleep. And I'm thinking, even devotees, sometimes we have trouble sleeping and we're just thinking, oh, I just like to sleep. And yet, what is spiritual life? It's not sleeping. We're trying to get rid of sleeping, but sometimes just to keep going in this body, you need to sleep. So like the poor lady, she was so happy she could finally sleep because the ghost was gone. We have nothing against ghosts, but they're disruptive for spiritual life. And they can't, really participate in a practical way. When we had our new Bhaktivedanta Manor, there was ghosts there. I was just there 2 weeks ago, and actually it was a week ago, and I started remembering all the incidents we had at the manor before we brought in the deities and started a full-on worship. So there was this little pond that has now been drained, and in its place is a George Harrison Memorial Garden. But it was said that a young girl from the manor died in that pond. And there was this ghost that was being associated with the manor, but she was not a maleficent. She was not a bad ghost. It was this young girl. And I personally had 3 direct encounters, and other devotees had encounters. It was like almost playful, but it could be kind of disturbing. Like, I was in this room resting and I had the door, I didn't have keys for the door, so it was not locked. And then I heard something like a lock jingling, making a noise. It woke me up and I went to my door and it was locked. But I had no key. Nobody had a key for that door. And in the end, we had to get the fire department with a ladder because it was up on the first floor and it was a high level, to get me down from there. That was one incident. The next incident, I was in what is now Srila Prabhupada's rooms, and I had brought a big trunk back from India. And in the trunk was Gaur Nitai, who are now installed at the manor. If you see on the altar, there's Gaur Nitai. But they were just still in the trunk. I'd just come back from India. And Gaur Nitai had been purchased by Sriman Shamsundar in Navadvip. So they're in the trunk. The trunk is locked with 2 locks, 2 strong locks. And I'm jet lagged. I'm sleeping, and not, I'm just kind of dozing off in that room. And again, I'm hearing these rattle of locks. So I wake up, and both of the locks on the trunk were open. They were ajar. And I went to the trunk. Nothing was taken. Just the locks were open. It was just like pointing out, see, I can do this. And the third one was we had this great big, huge walk-in safe. And we couldn't get into it because it was locked. And the realtor didn't have a key. The former occupants and nuns didn't have a key. They said, nobody's ever opened that safe. There's a ghost in there. One day we walked down into the room and the door of the safe was wide open. No explanation. And then some devotee, yeah, we heard some noise in the morning, but like, yeah, you heard some noise. The ghost decided to open the door, But it was a friendly ghost, this young girl. But once the deity worship began in earnest, it's just like she disappeared, and that was it. Anyways, in this case here, Lord Shiva, he's not particularly, he's a devotee, but those around him, they are not always devotees, and they can be very envious and they can be disruptive. And so Kashyapa was warning his wife, there's auspicious and inauspicious. So you're asking for something and it's possible, but the moment is not quite right. If you just wait a bit, then things will blow over, the Shiva Muhurta hour will vanish and things can go on properly. But as it was, that didn't happen, and that will be explained, later. But even for devotees, we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, because we're working as Krishna's agents. But still, not being fully purified, sometimes we have to be mindful, and obviously there's just like we have a certain spiritual regimen. Do we get up at a certain time in the morning because it's auspicious? And we do certain rituals in a certain way because it's considered auspicious. And by auspicious, we mean pleasing to Krishna. So that's the main thing for devotees to remember. And this was what was kind of being forgotten at the moment by Aditi, by Kasyapa's wife, because she was very anxious to, her sisters had all gotten kids. She hadn't gotten a kid yet. And so as the husband was willing, but just wait a minute, that's not the right time. And at the same time, we've probably all had experiences of going against our better, like, I know this isn't the right thing, the right time, whatever the act may be, whatever the situation, I'm going to do it anyway. And then it is quite often happens that the result is less than favorable. So we can do anything at any time for Krishna, but we have to be on that level. Otherwise, we follow the rules of bhakti and we behave in a certain way, we act in a certain way to ensure that we remain and keep connected with Lord Krishna, and not only ourselves, but those around us. We don't want to disrupt other people. That's another point to be considered. One thing from this chapter a little earlier, was explained that simply by beginning the discharge of devotional service, one can attain detachment and transcendental knowledge for understanding the science of God. So this is really important. The whole Bhagavatam is there to help us understand the science of God. The Bhagavad Gita to help us understand the science of God, etc. And a person who's detached from the modes of material nature remains just like the sun reflected on water. So in other words, just being in the mode of goodness, like I had an experience within the last week, and that among the people in your devotional life, there are people who reflect different modes of material nature more than others, and some are very much in the mode of goodness. So there's one person very much in the mode of goodness, you know. I always feel a little clumsy around this person because we're so much in the mode of goodness. And they have a very pious background, very pious family background. But the danger there is being caught up in your mode of goodness, where then you see the other modes from a disadvantageous point. They're not quite up to par. I'm in the mode of goodness, and here is something less than goodness, you know, or at any rate, above goodness is Sudasattva, pure goodness. So we need to get to that type of goodness. That was Srila Prabhupada, pure goodness. The mode of goodness is still saturated in the material world with tinges from passion and ignorance. And then one becomes judgmental, you know. So when you're factually engaged in bhakti yoga, the process is nirguna, without qualities of the material nature. And it's confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that each and every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And that means that our eternal position is to cooperate or to dovetail our energy with the Supreme Lord. That means avikara, without change. That's our unchanging position. And then as soon as we use our energy and activities for sense gratification, no matter how subtle, that change of position is called vikara. You know, and suddenly, you know, like Prabhupada from day one, spiritual life is like on the razor's edge, a slight slip and whoo, you're gonna, you know, you can cut yourself. So it's like that. Like when you're driving, they have the lines in the road. Stay within your lines, everything's good, unless the other driver, of course, isn't paying attention. But you know, the minute you deviate, there's every chance of an unwanted interaction. So even in a material body, when one practices devotional service under the direction of a spiritual master, then you come to the position which is without change, this avikara, without change, because it's the natural duty, natural function. Liberation means reinstatement of one's original position. And that original position is rendering service to the Lord. This bhakti yogena. So bhakti yogena, bhaktya, original position. And a conditioned soul, under the spell of the material nature, can't understand that any action we perform for sense gratification is faulty. Even if we're just thinking, it's just a little bit, you know, it's like a little bit of poison. There's going to be a reaction. So we perform something for sense gratification. It's falsy. And that only our activities in devotional service can actually release or free us from the reaction of faulty activities. So it's said that the prasaktam asaktam pati, that the mind is always attracted by asat, the temporary, the material existence. Even though there's, you know what is that 10th offense on the chanting? To be, you know, where you're being told so many times that, what is it? You know, that becoming attached to material activities, even after being told
After
so
hearing so many instructions on this, yes.
Yeah, so we hear something over and over, but we've got that little pinch of attachment. And sometimes the faulty intelligence thinks, okay, I got this, I understand it, so I can work around it or I'll work under it, but I don't have to totally ignore it because now I understand it. So that's the conditioned soul under the spell of material nature. Faulty, you know. And the mind is attracted by the asat, the temporary material existence, because we haven't fully purified it yet. So that little tinge of unpurified mind because we've been associated with material nature since time immemorial, we've become accustomed to our attachment to this material nature. The other day, one girl came to see me, and she was totally miserable by her own admission. And then she was saying so many things. She finally said, I'm so attached to my comfortable existence in this world. And I'm like, but then why are you so, like this comfortable existence? You kind of seem like you're pretty miserable. And she goes, well, that's the problem. So the mind has to be fixed at the eternal lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. This Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vinda. One has to fix the mind at the lotus feet, Padara Vinda, of Krishna. And then everything, Prabhupada said, everything will be very nice. And that's the seriousness of the Bhakti Yoga. And within the realm of the Bhakti Yoga, bhava is a very important factor in the practice of yoga or any spiritual process. So it explains in the Gita 10.8 that this Buddha bhava samanvita, that one should be absorbed in thoughts of love of Krishna. So we can say, yeah, I get that, except that I don't have any love for Krishna. So what is the remedy about that? That when one knows that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the source of everything, that everything emanates from him, this aham sarvasya prabhava, then one understands that the Vedic aphorism, this janmadhyasa yata, that's Bhagavatam 1.1, the original source of everything. So then when you actually fully understand that, you become absorbed in bhava, the preliminary state of love of Godhead. And even way back in 67, 68, Srila Prabhupada commented about Jamuna, that she was experiencing bhava. Now, when he said that, we were all like, wow, but we didn't even know what it was or what it meant, So, but still a very easy understanding that when we become absorbed in the preliminary state of love of Godhead is this absorption in bhava, that we understand Krishna. So even if the indirect process is taken, there's no success unless one becomes fully to the direct process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. Like nowadays, there's a lot of, you can say indirect preaching, bridge preaching. That's all right, we can do that. But unless one comes fully to the direct process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, there's no success. So there's a word, satyena, and that means without duplicity. So the impersonalists are full of duplicity. So the impersonalists' big problem is they cannot grasp that God is a person. They just can't take that. It's like abhorrent to them. So sometimes they pretend to execute devotional service, but their ultimate idea is to become one with the Supreme. In other words, they want to become God. So this is duplicity, this kapata. And the Bhagavatam doesn't allow this duplicity. So in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it's clearly stated this, paramo nirmat saranam, that this treatise, Srimad Bhagavatam, is meant for those who are completely free from envy. We can see how nasty envy is. If we want to know Krishna, we have to be free, completely free from envy. At a certain point, there was a lot of issues regarding brainwashing. Even there was court cases brought to ISKCON that we were brainwashing people. And actually, from our point of view, we could agree. Yeah, we are, your brain is dirty, our hearts are dirty, we're trying to wash them. And same time, people just couldn't grasp it. And so from a practical point of view, what Prabhupada has introduced is hard to criticize. You know, he says, it's like, how can they take it that what we're doing is a bad thing if we're training people how to avoid intoxication, how to avoid illicit sex, abortion, contraception, etc. And Prabhupada had a very succinct comment. It is folly to be wise where ignorance is bliss. In other words, the majority are fools and rascals. So when you say something sane, then they'll say that the sane man is crazy, which is actually was what was behind Prabhupada's little you know, he had this little booklet, Who's Crazy, based on a situation where a devotee had been deemed crazy. And then when the psychiatrists went to interview him, they came out thinking, no, everybody else is crazy. Actually, this person is quite sane. So the only means that in spite of all opposition, there's only one means to counteract this type of mindset or craziness and material craziness, and that is that we have to chant Hare Krishna, and that will cleanse. Otherwise, there is no other way. Argument and logic, they don't have the brains, the materialistic person, they don't have the brains to understand. It requires this transcendental method, this Cetodarpanamarjanam, by chanting Hare Krishna. You have to chant Hare Krishna. Let people get the chance to hear. And then they'll be able to catch it. They'll be able to understand what we're saying. Maybe not directly. It might not be possible, but still, one will have enough of a grasp to understand that the education we're providing is on a different level. And as opposed to being fearful for what we're doing, like brainwashing, actually it's desirable, you know. Prabhupada said there are like basically 6 types of human beings. So there are those who only see the bad in somebody. Probably we've all met those kind of persons. Then there's the good, they see the good, they see the bad, but they choose the bad. And then there's those, they see a little bad in someone, and then they choose to make it very, very big, you know, like the spot on the moon. So those 3. And then there are those who see both good and bad, but they choose the good. You know, we know people like that within the movement. They're so wonderful. We'd like to be around those people. And then there are those who only see the good in others. And then there are the devotees who see a little bit of good in someone, but they choose to make it very, very big, amplify it. Prabhupada was expert at that. So our remedy for material life is very simple. Simply chant for Krishna, dance for Krishna, work, prepare nice suits for Krishna. Then 10% will become fully free from all the other influences. So this is in a letter to Himavati, and then Prabhupada ended it. Please always remember this secret and show by example to all others. Our remedy for material life. Very simple. And there was like a morning walk, and there was a conversation. And one devotee was commenting, well, we have the choice of being controlled either by love or by force. And Prabhupada agreed, yes. When we decide to be controlled by Krishna, it's out of love for him. And similarly, you're being controlled by me, but there's no force. You serve me voluntarily out of love. I'm not paying you. Still, when I ask you to go do something, immediately you will do it. Why? Because there's love between us. And that really sums up the relationship between Srila Prabhupada and his disciples in those beautiful, blissful early days. He would ask something, and immediately we couldn't wait to do it because of the great enthusiastic feeling of love between us. And if we go on chanting Hare Krishna in the pure status, then we shall be on the loving platform. And at that time, we'll feel the greatest separation from the Lord. But that feeling of separation from the Lord is more relishable than meeting the Lord. So these are all transcendental, existential understandings. And as we grow in Krishna consciousness, then we gradually understand everything by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, he's in everyone's heart. He reveals himself to the devotee with the progress of Krishna consciousness. So even sometimes we're going on daily, we kind of have ourselves in, I call it spiritual cruise control, or you got to push a bit, got to give a little energy to what you're doing. And then you'll realize, actually, I'm making progress, because when you're just cruising along, you don't feel any progress. You feel like kind of static. You're not really going anywhere. But in actual fact, as long as you are chanting, there is going to be progress. There was a nice instruction in the Adi Leela with regards to preachers. And Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj, and he explained that one should not be envious, considering one preacher to be very great and another to be very lowly. So this is material distinction and has no place on the platform of spiritual activities. So, of course, how do we cover that over is by offering equal respect to all preachers. And the preachers are compared to the branches of the tree. And I was thinking, yes, that's true. Somebody comes, they're going to give a class, and you may be thinking, oh, that's just so-and-so, okay, I won't go today. But then, oh, here comes somebody else, maybe it's your guru, for sure you're going to be there front and center. But Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's pointing out that this is a material distinction. And I was thinking how Srila Prabhupada would come and sit in on the Bhagavatam classes. We were like not even preschoolers. And we were like giving the classes. We didn't understand a word of what we were speaking. But Prabhupada ordered us, so we were doing it. And I had asked him when I got initiated, he says, so now you go out and preach to others. And I was like, how do we do this? And he goes, you just listen to what I tell you, and then you repeat. Don't add or subtract. You can speak in your words, but don't add or subtract. So in the same way, we may, in our materially infected outlook, we see, oh, here's a great preacher. I'll listen to that one. Oh, this one, not so much. I'll go do something else. But actually, that's a material distinction. And Krishnadas Kaviraj points out it has no place on the platform of spiritual activities. And the example was Srila Prabhupada sitting in on the classes of his own students, So our process is to show Krishna consciousness as it is and not how others want to see it. There's so much emphasis nowadays on, the woke culture that, we've got to be on a higher level, got to consider what everybody else thinks. But, if you take a person with a disease, and you eat from them, you're going to get the disease too. So in the same way, you listen to a diseased person, you'll also get their disease consciousness. So it's not that there's things that cannot be improved upon within ISKCON or within our own lives, but our process is to show Krishna consciousness as it is, not as others want to see it. And by showing Krishna consciousness in this way, then if we do that, then we're making it less important. Prabhupada explained this in Letter to Yogeshwara. It's not that we should change to accommodate the public, but we should change the public to accommodate us. And if we simply present Krishna consciousness in a serious and attractive way, without the need to report to fashionable slogans or tricks. That is sufficient. But Prabhupada saying this in 1971. So you can see that it's been a long-standing, you could say a long-standing consideration, I would say imposition, that, okay, we've got to come up with a better way to present this Krishna consciousness. But the best way to present it is as it is and through our own life. That we were attracted to Srila Prabhupada because he was authentic. He was speaking and acting in a way that was in sync. Not that he said one thing and then something else was going on, behind the door, not at all. So it's not that we should change to accommodate the public, but we should change the public to accommodate us if we simply present Krishna consciousness in a serious and attractive way without the need to resort to fashionable slogans. So the thing is, that means we have to also, to use a well-worn phrase, we have to walk our talk, And Prabhupada pointed out, our unique asset is our purity. He wrote, no one anywhere can match it. That will be noticed eventually and appreciated, as long as we do not diminish or neglect the highest standard of purity in performing our routine work. It's not that we require to display or announce ourselves in some kind of clever way to get attention. Prabhupada said, no, our pure standard is enough. Let us stand on that basis. So that was in 71, giving us a very clear indication and warning and instruction. And I think that same instruction holds even more so now, because we all see how the world is fractured and, among devotees, so much quarreling, mundane politics are like unbelievable. Prabhupada said that he wanted his students to be like gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. And we can see that that is, for the mundane people out there, that is a very outdated concept that you should behave as ladies and gentlemen. So you've got your president of a well-known country that I happen to live in, insulting people right, left, and center and getting applauded for it. So somehow we have to show up on a better level by following Prabhupada's example and instructions and be perfect, ladies and gentlemen. Vishaka had written this really nice article, and the name of the article was Prabhupada, India's National Hero. So Prabhupada received a letter from Vishaka, and she enclosed that article. And he responded, I'm very grateful to you for your kind words about me, but I do not think that I have done anything. I am only delivering the best message as it is. Actually, anyone who's a sincere devotee of Krishna and who is rendering service by preaching this message is to be considered a hero. And then he continued, so all of you are heroes of your country and your humanity. Hero means someone who others want to follow as an example of the best type of person. So you all become like that. Perfect examples of Krishna consciousness, heroes and heroines, and preach the message exactly as I have taught it to you very seriously, being fully convinced, and others will automatically come forward and join us. We shall be like one great army of heroes for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it is just such a very attractive meditation. I'll leave the class with that we should fully follow Prabhupada's example and preach the message as he's taught us, convince others, they'll automatically join, and we shall all be like one great army of heroes for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we have seen that amazing devotees, some of whom are no longer with us, like Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, by his own example, people were just mesmerized. Yes, I want to be like that. And were willing to follow and become devotees. So we should try to keep that in mind, assist Prabhupada in pushing on this mission, and become one of the heroes in Lord Chaitanya's army. That is what I have to say today.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother, as always. Thank you so much for this beautiful Krishna Katha. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. Hare Krishna, Mother Jambavati. Mother, you mentioned two things which reminded me of two separate incidences that took place in Ghana. One was brainwashing, where you're talking about brainwashing.
Yeah.
Your god brother, Tribhuvannath, who is no more with us on this earth planet, I had the amazing opportunity to have his association.
Which god brother?
Tribhuvannath.
Oh my God.
Yes.
This person was gold.
Yes, he was. He was.
Pure gold.
Yes. Yes. I was so fortunate I had this association. So, and like, I'm always asking questions. So he gave a class and I asked a question about this brainwashing because someone had asked me that question in one of my book distributions. So he laughed and he said, next time anybody tells you that we are brainwashing people, tell them we do not brainwash, we are brain givers. In the first place, you don't have brain to be washed, but we give you brain. So we are brain givers. And that has stuck in my mind. And also talking about sticking to what Srila Prabhupada gave us, there was once, I was in the temple room doing japa, and then I walked out of the temple room and I met one senior devotee, older devotee, and she called me back. I had not taken initiation, so she called me, hey, Dr. Smith, come back. So I went to the temple room and then she asked me to look in the temple room, what do I find? And I looked in the temple room, I could not find anything. She says, don't you find anything in the temple room? I said, no, Mother, I don't find anything. And then she said, Krishna, what is going on? We joined devotional service for devotional service to change us. But here we are, we have these devotees joining devotional service to change devotional service. And I said, what? And I still didn't understand. Then she told me, look at the temple room. And she said, because there were cushions scattered all over in the temple room. They were not properly arranged.
Yeah.
So she told me, don't you see the cushion over there? Don't you see the cushion over there? Is that how they're supposed to be lying in the temple room? Rearrange them. So I rearranged them. So these two things you mentioned reminded me these experiences I had some time back, that we joined devotional service for devotional service to change us.
Yes.
We should not try to change devotional service as given by Srila Prabhupada. So thank you for sharing those things. Hare Krishna.
Well, that was coming from Prabhupada.
Yes.
Passing it on.
Yes, yes. So if anyone has a question or comment, please.
Krishna, My
Yes.
emoji is not working. My emoji is not working.
Okay, so go ahead, Shumvara Prabhu, please.
Yeah, please Tasha Mambo Besansis Mataji. I'll go to the Prabhupada. I'm in a very noisy place, so I didn't see the solution. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Can you hear me clearly? Okay. So thank you very much, Mataji. I mean, I am shocked. And I am really, really shocked. All what you're saying while you're giving this class, everything you're saying is answer to what somebody is asking me as questions. Somebody is sending me messages about the kind of preaching going on in Ghana. And he's sending me pictures and statements on social media about this devotee presenting Krishna consciousness in a different way. And because this devotee is giving so much money to devotees and to the authorities, everyone is shut up. No one is saying anything. But he's sending me so many things to show the kind of preaching going on. And I was thinking about it and what to do. And you're saying all these wonderful things about how to, present Krishna consciousness as it is, about how to represent Prabhupada as it is. And I'm just wondering what to do. Here is somebody.
I would have to have some, concrete examples, because there's 2 points here. Sometimes there's a change in terms of the external presentation, but the actual message is clear and pure. But sometimes externally and internally, there has been a change in the message. And
that's not the case.
That is the danger.
This is not the case. This is the case of extortion. I mean, the person, an Indian person, sent pictures of kavashas, and he told me these kavashas are sold in India for $3 or $4. And this person on the social media is selling them for $300. And he said that is promotion for Kartik. After Kartik is $650. And he has written on the social media, he's formerly vice president of Hare Krishna Temple. Now he became temple president. Now he's the chairman of the National Council. So he's such a very big person in the Hare Krishna movement. And whatever he says,
where is this? Where is it?
This is Ghana. I have all the posts in my WhatsApp. I don't know whom to say which.
I can't comment on a situation that I have not direct encounter with. And I would say, unless it's your GBC who you're talking about, go to your GBC respectfully and say, look at this here. It's a little disturbing. Can you maybe give some consideration?
This is very embarrassing. And it's going on, and the leaders are aware. I'm shocked because we are complaining that things are changing. People are not, being very taken to the movement any longer like before. But people don't know which one is the truth Hare Krishna. Whether it is the version that this guy is promoting, or whether it is what they find when they come to the temple. But when they come to the temple, they don't really know which is the original Hare Krishna. And I'm having all the posts to me here. I don't know whom to share it with, but I would love to share it publicly. It is, of course, maybe many people are seeing this in Ghana and they think it's normal, but it's strange and it's embarrassing. And I'm only able to say this because you are speaking just exactly what we need to hear about this kind of things. And I think Krishna was speaking to you. So that's why I'm able to speak out also
to you. You can take the words because this was not for me. I was just repeating from Prabhupada.
Yes, exactly.
And, I can, if you just send me a memo and I will send you a few things from Prabhupada that maybe you can present to this person. And, sometimes people just get a little bewildered and they think they're doing something good when they don't realize actually they're really not doing something so good. And Prabhupada is so potent that maybe if he gets connected with Prabhupada through Prabhupada's words, maybe he'll get it.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Mother. And Shivara Acharya Prabhu, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Some of us are already aware of these things, but like Mother said, she does not know the details, so she cannot give a definitive response to do this or not to do that. But one thing I may share with Mother Malati is that trying to, devotees in general, trying to share some of these experiences with the leadership, I think will go in vain, because it's not like they are not aware. If somebody doesn't know there is a bad situation and you describing the situation to the person, then he may be able to do something. But if somebody is aware and is not prepared to do anything, and even sometimes encouraging it, then what can you do? So we can only pray that somehow Guru and Krishna may
And the other thing is, you can also just make sure the general devotees are given the right information. You don't even have to point a finger at the other person. You can just say, here's what Prabhupada says about.
Yeah.
You know? Anyways, I will try to, because I'm leaving on for another month next week. I leave on Wednesday. I'll be gone. I'll get back on the 31st of December, but I'll try to send you some information that Prabhupada has said about changing, and it's very potent. If people are, but at least for the regular people who are a little more innocent, they should know and be aware. And sometimes people are taken over by their false ego and they're not ready to hear anything, including Prabhupada, which is most unfortunate. But it's even worse when they filter it through other innocent devotees. So at least you can try to let the innocent devotees know what Prabhupada has to say.
Well, thank you so much. Really, I appreciate receiving that from you. And dear devotees, if anyone else has something to ask, please do that before we call it a day today.
Yes, because I have to.
Yes.
Today, I was already at a GBC meeting today, and then I have this class, and now I have another.
Yeah. Well, so I think, Mother, this is what we're going to do. We're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute themselves. We are with one heart, one voice, chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered auntie and grand auntie to some of us for coming in and sharing her love and wisdom with us. Usually, hey,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
I feel so happy.
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Anjaka patarabia cha kripa kasanda bia wacha.
Jai, Mati Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnava devotees ki jai.